Imagine the single happiest day of your life. The culmination of a lifetime of love, surrounded by everyone you care about. Now imagine someone you trusted, someone standing right beside you, deciding to light a match and set that perfect moment on fire, just so everyone would look at them. That's exactly what happened to my cousin Emma. But this isn't a story about tragedy. This is a story about patience. This is a story about how revenge, when served cold, can be so satisfying it's downright explosive. If you believe that karma has a long memory and that some people just have it coming, then you're in the right place. Smash that subscribe button and hit like, because you're about to witness a masterclass in poetic justice. This isn't just revenge. This is an art form. Let's dive in. Our story begins last summer, at a wedding that felt like something out of a storybook. My cousin, who we'll call Emma, was marrying the love of her life. And when I say lifetime, I mean it. Their families were so intertwined, they'd basically grown up in each other's backyards. They knew each other as toddlers. This wasn't just a union of two people, it was the celebration of a bond that had woven through two families for decades. The ceremony was beautiful. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows of the old church, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Emma was radiant. She looked like she was floating, her smile so genuine it could have powered the entire city. The air was thick with pure, unadulterated joy. And then, the party started. The champagne was flowing, the music was just kicking in, and the guests were buzzing with that happy energy you only find at a truly great wedding. The focus was entirely, and rightfully, on the newlyweds, until it wasn't. One of the bridesmaids, a woman we'll call Sarah, decided this was her moment. In the middle of the dance floor, with Emma and her new husband just beginning to relax, Sarah clinked a champagne glass. A hush fell over the room. Everyone assumed it was for an impromptu toast. Oh, it was an announcement, all right, but not for the bride and groom. Sarah, with a smile so smug it could curdle milk, held up her left hand, flashing a brand new diamond ring. Her equally self-satisfied fiancé wrapped an arm around her, and she declared, at the top of her lungs, that they were engaged. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. It was like a needle scratch on the vinyl of a perfect day. The collective attention of 200 people swung violently away from Emma and toward Sarah. The bubble of matrimonial bliss was popped, just like that. Suddenly, the wedding wasn't about Emma anymore. It was about Sarah's new ring, her new engagement, her new future. I watched Emma's face, and what I saw broke my heart. The pure, effortless joy from moments before vanished. Her smile became a mask, stretched tight across her face. You could see the sheer force of will it took for her to keep it there. Her eyes, which had been sparkling with happiness, were now glassy, shimmering with unshed tears. She looked like she'd been sucker punched. But here's the thing you need to know about Emma. She's normally a firecracker, confrontational. She's the kind of person who speaks her mind. Consequences be damned. If someone cuts her in line at the grocery store, they're going to hear about it. But on this day, her day, she did nothing. She swallowed the bitterness, the rage, the profound disrespect. She walked over to Sarah, gave her a hug that looked physically painful to execute, and squeaked out congratulations. She played the part of the gracious, happy friend, while inside, a storm was gathering. She didn't make a scene, she didn't say a single negative word. She just let Sarah steal her spotlight, absorb her joy, and hijack her wedding. And in that moment of silent, dignified fury, a seed was planted. A seed that would lie dormant for nearly a year, waiting for the perfect conditions to grow. Months went by. Life moved on. And then, Sarah, in an act of either supreme arrogance or complete ignorance, did something incredible. She asked Emma to be her maid of honor. She handed the woman she had publicly humiliated the keys to her own wedding. She gave the architect of her future downfall a front-row seat and a position of ultimate trust. Emma, with that same strained smile I saw at her own wedding. Except, and this, my friends, is where the fun begins. Emma wasn't just going to be any maid of honor. She was going to be the most helpful, organized, and supportive maid of honor imaginable. On the surface, behind the scenes, she was taking notes. She learned that Sarah was being an absolute nightmare to her other bridesmaids, most of whom were also Emma's friends. Sarah demanded they buy ridiculously expensive dresses that cost a small fortune. Well outside their budgets, she was dismissive, demanding, and downright nasty, treating her supposed best friends like hired help. Several of them nearly dropped out, but Emma, the patient strategist, counseled them. "Just hold on," she'd say with a knowing calm. "It'll be worth it." She was gathering allies. The other bridesmaids, who had all witnessed Sarah's stunt at Emma's wedding and were now suffering under her bridezilla tyranny, were more than happy to join the conspiracy. They became Emma's willing accomplices in waiting. The wedding day arrived. A year had passed. Sarah's big day. The theme was a classic, elegant affair. Ivory, champagne, and blush tones. Everything was meticulously planned. Every detail was supposed to be perfect. Emma's two much younger sisters were the flower girls. Their instructions were simple: walk down the aisle and scatter the delicate white rose petals from their baskets. But at the very last moment, just before the procession began, Emma pulled her sisters into a small alcove. With a sly wink, she produced a hidden bag. She quietly switched out the pristine white petals for a mountain of vibrant, shocking, electric blue petals. She leaned in close and whispered to her sisters, "This is our little secret. Don't let anyone, especially Sarah, see these until you're on that aisle. And when you get there, you make it rain." The organ began to play. The doors swung open. The two little flower girls, beaming, walked down the long white aisle runner, scattering handfuls of these brilliantly blue petals. They cascaded down, blanketing the pristine white fabric in a color that clashed violently with every single element of Sarah's carefully curated theme. It was like a blue ink bomb had gone off in a sea of beige. I saw the Snapchat video my cousin sent. You can see Sarah standing at the altar, her face a perfect portrait of confusion. A flicker of annoyance crosses her features. But what can she do? She's in the middle of her own wedding ceremony. She has to just stand there and watch as her perfect aesthetic is completely and utterly sabotaged. The ceremony ends. The reception begins. And the low-grade chaos continues. Sarah is on a warpath. She starts demanding to know what happened. Why were there blue petals? Whose idea was this? She confronts the bridesmaids, who all feign complete ignorance. Blue petals? How strange. They looked unique, they'd say, their eyes twinkling with shared secrets. She corners Emma's little sisters, who, under strict orders, just give her angelic, innocent smiles and shrug. The fury then turns on the wedding planner. Sarah absolutely unleashes on the poor woman, accusing her of incompetence, of not checking the flower girls' baskets. The planner is flabbergasted, stammering apologies for something she had no part in. All the while, Emma and her co-conspirators watch from the sidelines, sipping their champagne, their faces masks of perfect sympathy. The tension is building. The blue petals were just the appetizer. The main course was yet to be served. Finally, it was time for the speeches. Behind the head table was a massive projection screen, cycling through a professionally made slideshow of photos of Sarah and her new husband, a romantic, touching tribute. Compiled, of course, by the maid of honor, Emma. The best man gives his speech. It's fine. A few chuckles. Then it's Emma's turn. She walks up to the microphone, a picture of grace and poise. She's holding the small remote that controls the slideshow. The room goes quiet. She starts off beautifully. She tells a few pre-approved, lighthearted stories about her long friendship with Sarah. She clicks the remote, and a few funny, nostalgic photos of them as teenagers appear on the screen. The guests laugh. Sarah smiles, relaxing. She's been placated. Her maid of honor is delivering the perfect, heartfelt speech. She has no idea she's standing on a trapdoor. Emma brings her speech to a close. She raises her glass. To Sarah and her wonderful new husband, she says, her voice smooth as silk. May your life together be as beautiful and as happy as this day has been. She pauses. The guests are ready to cheer. But Emma isn't finished. She lowers her glass slightly, a thoughtful expression on her face. She looks directly at Sarah. "But Sarah," she says, her voice dropping just enough to draw everyone in, "I know there's one thing that's been bothering you all evening. You must be wondering why there were blue petals." You could feel the air in the room change. Every guest leaned forward. Sarah's smile faltered. Emma gave a tiny, almost imperceptible smile. And with all the calm in the world, she looked down at the remote in her hand, and she pressed the next button one last time. The romantic photo of Sarah and her husband on the massive screen vanished. It was replaced by a grainy black and white image. An image that is universally, instantly recognizable. An ultrasound picture. As the image burned onto the retinas of every single person in that room, Emma brought the microphone back to her lips. Her voice was clear, steady, and triumphant. "It's because my husband and I just found out," she announced, her voice ringing through the silent hall, "that we're 5 months pregnant. It's a boy." For a full second, there was absolute, stunned silence. You could have heard a pin drop, and then pandemonium. A wave of shocked gasps and frantic whispers erupted from half the room. But from the other half, from the tables where the bridesmaids, Emma's family, and all their friends who knew the whole story were sitting, came a roar. It was a deafening, explosive cheer of pure, unadulterated vindication. It was so loud, I honestly had to turn the volume down on the Snapchat recordings my cousin sent me. They weren't just cheering, they were celebrating a victory. Sarah's face, captured forever on a dozen smartphones, was a Picasso painting of rage. Her mouth fell open. Her eyes went wide with disbelief, which quickly curdled into pure, incandescent fury. She started screaming, a high-pitched, incoherent shriek of, how could you do this to me?" It was perfect. It was symmetrical. Sarah had hijacked Emma's big day with her own happy announcement. So Emma returned the favor, not just by hijacking Sarah's reception, but by doing it with news that is infinitely bigger and more life-changing than a simple engagement. She didn't just steal the spotlight, she vaporized it. Of course, Emma and my cousin were promptly thrown out of the party. But as security escorted them to the door, they were both grinning from ear to ear. They walked out not in shame, but in triumph, like heroes leaving a battlefield. The final perfect moment came outside. Sarah's fuming mother came charging out after them, ready to unleash a tirade. Before she could get a word out, Emma just held up a hand, put the other on her stomach, and said with a sickeningly sweet smile, "Gentle, gentle, I'm pregnant. Checkmate." What could the mother do? What could anyone do? Emma had deployed the ultimate shield. She had wrapped her revenge in the one thing no one could argue with. I reckon Sarah doesn't speak to the majority of those bridesmaids anymore. She burned her bridges for a moment of selfish glory, and Emma simply used the embers to light a celebratory firework at her own party. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But sometimes, it's a dish best served publicly, in front of 200 people, with a slideshow and a perfectly timed secret. Emma didn't just get even, she reset the entire social chessboard, reminding everyone that when you choose to disrespect someone, you never know when or how they'll choose to cash that receipt, and that is how you execute perfect, poetic justice. What do you guys think? Was Emma's revenge perfectly proportionate, or did she go too far? Let me know your verdict in the comments below. And tell me, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed the story, subscribe for more tales of epic payback, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a moment of sweet, sweet karma. Until next time,